morning, viewers. You're welcome to a fresh edition of Newspapers Today on Osbc TV. My name is Adibare Jumagide, your anchor on the program. I'll be reading the headlines and a review of some of the issues that appears on the national dailies we follow. Joining me in the studio at this moment is a guest, a legal practitioner. It is my pleasure introducing to you Mr. Kayode Adebisi. You're welcome on the program.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Nigerians.
Now, I'm starting with the Daily Sun, reading out these captions. I won't marginalize any part of Nigeria. Tinubu. Ace Wike for championing justice, but declines commitment on refund of money spent building federal road, bridges, and in rivers. And still from that, we have this caption: Senate approves federal government's 22.7 trillion naira CBN loan request. Buhari launches Nigerian Agenda 2050. Moving forward to the Vanguard newspaper, also I have this: NSC, TUC, KIK, as Senate okays federal government's 22.7 trillion naira ways and means. It's shocking. That one is coming from NLC. Approval creates rules for suspicion. TUC. We approved advances to avert government shutdown. That was coming from Lawan, the Senate President. Says move we allow National Assembly consider pending 2022 supplementary budget. 10th Assembly will contest for Rep Speaker, say opposition parties. Let us start from this, Mr. Adebisi, this caption. NSC, TUC, KIK, as Senate okays federal government's 22.7 trillion naira ways and means. NSC's reaction says it is suspicion and shocking. What is your take on this?
Well, the titlet of the regime of Mr. Buhari, Mr. President, I don't think that one is reasonable and even justifiable. Within the next 24 days, what do you want to do with that kind of money when you are about to hand over the reign of government, whereas budgetary approval or whatever they call it? Well, leave everything for the incoming administration. They will do it. Most of when it is, even when it is the same party. So why in the hurry? I think the borrowing or the lending bank should have a rethink. Should have a rethink, because if there is no capacity to repay that money, then it will be a problem for them. So I think every other civil organization should rise up against the unnecessary borrowing. The one they borrowed before, they are yet to repay. They are 6 trillion, not just billion. I don't. Maybe it's a media misrepresentation of facts. Maybe it's billion, but it's like as if other papers are also carrying trillion. So let us wait and see how far it will go.
All right. Still on that, you recall that the request has been rejected by the previous members of the House of Senate, and it was also resubmitted to the House. What is the implication of continuous borrowing on the nation? Recently, the nation has just obtained secured 800 billion naira as oil subsidy relief. That's
why I said it's very.
And the debt relief, the debt management offices, the debt approval of Nigeria as at first quarter of last year is 42 trillion naira.
That's why I said it's very unfortunate and also suspicious. Maybe it's a plot to settle some these NAs as a sent-off package. So I think other agencies also probe that's intended borrowing, and if possible, legal action can be suited in court. And because the capacity to repay is another thing. What are you doing that using that money for? Any project you cannot complete now, the incoming administration will look into it, and they will look for the way out of financing it. Don't just impose on everybody on the incoming administration when you are of the same party. So it will be counterproductive. So the well-meaning Nigerians will rise up.
Don't you think that the Red Chamber needs to be more transparent, especially on this issue? Examine the way this loan request was approved. It was a sort of a debate in the House. Why some turned it down, some even suggested that part of the money should be released while they carry out more investigation on it before the total approval, and they went into a caucus meeting and later approved these things.
Well, that's why I said that financing and refinancing engineering, the incoming administration will know it better than this one. So what you have once rejected the idea of borrowing before, the same Senate now turn around. So that's why they call them rubber stamping Senate. Maybe because of the benefit they are going to derive, and that's the main reason I suspect they now turn court against their own illegal decision. So let us wait and see how far it will go.
All right, now Agenda 2050. Federal government projects 33,000 per capita GDP, gross domestic product. That is as President Buhari launches Agenda 2050.
I don't. That's a belated effort. Yes, the one he launched since 2015. What are they achieved? Have they lifted 100 million Nigerians out of poverty? So many people have loved their job. If not for the personality and aura of Tinubu as a person, he wouldn't have won the election, because people know that this Buhari is not as competent as Tinubu. They know. So it is based on the caliber and the timber and the track record of Tinubu. That's why most Nigerians still believe that let us give this party maybe the last chance or another chance. So which Agenda 2050? When many people are losing their job, when you are not building the infrastructure we need so keenly in Nigeria, the electricity and the health center, they are there. They are in woeful condition. This is a clear matter issue not have occur if Nigerian medical facilities are on ground, and if they have a very good motive and not ulterior motive, they will not be running to other country in the name of medical tourism. So those are the issues.
All right. Coming from the Punch newspaper, I have this caption: 26 days to go. Outrage as Senate approves Buhari's 22.7 trillion naira extra budgetary spending. Borrowing from CBN illegal, suspicious, says NECA. ICCI economist. 22.7 trillion naira extra budgetary spending to raise public debts to 69 trillion naira. That's quite unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
All right, still have these captions. APC National Working Committee fails to zone National Assembly leadership seats. Court order final forfeiture of 324 houses in Kano. 62-year-old trader steals patient's phone in Abuja. Okay. In Sudan, 376 stranded Nigerians airlifted from Egypt. Well, there is a development on that. They have arrived the country. They arrived Nigeria around midnight yesterday. At least some minutes before 12 a.m. How will you describe the intervention of the federal government and other stakeholders? Even the Dangote also has intervened, rewarded them.
It's a good development, but unfortunate too, because it shouldn't have taken Nigerians this long hours. They went through a lot of traumas. Some of them were even tempted to maybe attack the embassy somewhere or in Egypt or something. So But that's what I was saying. When you fetch money for something, and there are different reports that the money they got, the transporter, is not what you budgeted. Why should that be so? Why should that be so? We still have others that are there that are yet to be airlifted now. At least they are going to around maybe 2,000 plus. They want to airlift from Sudan. So, and the ceasefire they gave, I think it's 72 hours. I don't know how they will meet up with that ultimatum.
All right. Coming from Daily Sun, I won't marginalize any part of Nigeria. Tinubu further Osbc for championing justice, but declines commitment on refund of money spent building federal road bridges in rivers. What's your take?
Yes, I was watching the program yesterday, and Mr. President said that once I have not been sworn in, I cannot make any commitment now. It will be as if I have usurped the power of the incumbent president, who has the only power of the purse to give and to not to give. So, but he's now, but he said further that he promised that he will fulfill all the promises to every sector of Nigeria, every segment, including River State, and he commended him being a dependable fellow. So once it's a federal rule and they follow due process, you don't need to lobby at all. So it's your due right, but the due process must have been followed. They will pay. That was the president said.
All right. Okay. We contest for rep speaker, say opposition parties. Opposition parties are planning to contest for the
election. If the care is not taken, the opposition
how feasible is that?
They may emerge in at least in that of House of Reps.
Okay.
They will combine them together. They are more than the ruling party members. But be that as it may, politics is a matter of negotiations.
Okay.
And you cannot know the mind of men. You can only presume. Like, for example, now I know that of PDP honorables. They will go for APC because they follow the trumpet and the rules of the sitting governor there. So, and once they have that of river, once the APC have that of river, the APC will still emerge as the speaker. So, concerning other parties that like NPP and maybe SDP, you may still negotiate with them. So, but all the same, in terms of Sony, the party must be very careful. Once you have the Northern as the vice president, then the South will have the Senate president, and possibly not Central, the speaker, or Northwest.
All right.
To balance it.
My 4 wives, 29 children, prove I will succeed as speaker. Dogua. In another newspaper, he explained the reason why he stepped down for the incumbent Senate president, incumbent speaker. So, how will you react to his
well, it's from the
position?
It's from the Northwest. If the speakership is not shown within the party to the Northwest, that means you forget it.
Okay.
But if they leave it open between Northwest and North Central, well, possibly, if he is able to convince and his colleagues also believe in him, he may emerge. But this sort of children and the wife does not come in here. Because you are going to public.
I think he says he's a good manager.
If you are a good manager at a private environment, does not mean automatically you be a good manager at the public. There are two different scenarios. There are some things you can do within the house by imposing on the wives and the children, but you cannot impose on the people who are your colleagues, who may even be more experienced than you.
Okay. All right. From Daily Times, we have this caption: INEC, Tinubu, Atiku Obi gets notices of tribunal opens pre-hearing Monday. As tribunal opens pre-hearing on Monday, they get notice on that. As a court case, we won't react on that.
That one will take another 6 months.
Okay.
Tribunal before it will get in a Supreme Court for 2 months.
All right.
So, but it's not something they can finish between now and May 29.
Okay. Federal government disconnects Disco from national grid over debt.
That's why we should revisit the issue of privatization of city in the first place. If this go with the amount of outrageous bill that are given Nigerians on daily basis, on monthly basis, they are still in debt. That means something is wrong with the management and the whole architecture of that privatization itself. So they should reject that, revisit that electricity privatization, and maybe it's in the wrong hands. People that they don't have technocratic experience they are only investing the public fund. So it's very unfortunate, because the implication is that distribution will also be at lower edge if they have revoked their license. That's the implication.
All right, let's still examine this one coming from resident doctors. Let's hear what they're saying on their strike. It says, strike. Resident doctors say federal government straight annoying. What's the way out of resolving these issues?
Well, there's no way out than for them to challenge it in court. If they feel that the law is a kind of imposition or unnecessary abridgment of their rights, then they go out to court that why should I serve for 5 years? Having been called duly as inducted as a medical doctor, you are asking me to do 5 years service to you against my will. What if I have a better offer somewhere else? So those are the fact issues that they can go and canvass in court of law. So by going on strike, by doing that one will not solve the problem. But once it is signed to law, they are bound to obey it, unless the court of law say no, you have exceeded your powers as a lawmaker. You cannot just do that.
All right, coming from Nigeria Tribune, I have this caption: I owe you nothing. That's Tinubu to Wike, as Rivers governor asks for refund on 80 billion naira spent on projects. I will not marginalize any part of Nigeria, President-elect promises. Please hand over 215 electoral offenders to INEC for prosecution.
Well, there are many.
Do you see it as a good development in the electoral
It depends
system?
on what comes out of that police prosecution.
Okay.
If they are charged at all. It depends, because at the end of the day they will still say we are having logistic problems, funding, transportation, and even strike. So once you have 2 or 3 adjournments, you see people will lose interest in that kind of prosecution or proceedings. So far it's so good. How many of these offenders have been prosecuted and sent to jail? What about their sponsors? Because when you just send the person that is used, what of the person that sponsor? You will recruit another set of thugs. But when you are making sponsor also the scapegoat, they are jailing them, then the thing will make sense to everybody.
All right, let's also examine this. Senate can't stop demolition work at Lagos Airport. Federal government, you know, the Senate has intervened that they should stop demolitions of offices belonging to aviation sector. Well,
the federal government has the power. If the building does not meet the regulatory,
the federal government is planning development in that area.
Yes, they can acquire any part of Nigeria.
Okay.
And they pay due compensation either to private person. Even if the political state government that owns it, they can acquire it and pay compensation to the political state government, because the federal is a national project. So the only person that can stop the federal government is the court of law, if there is basis for it.
All right. APC National Working Committee ends 4 hours meeting without decision on National Assembly leadership zoning. I think you have reacted on all this issue of zoning.
Yes.
All right. Africans living in UK battle for survival. Report. Burdened by cost of living crisis, shrinking labor force.
That's why the economy is being challenged everywhere in the world. Even the UK, they have had recessions 2 or 3 times. So people will just not just think that when you are just japa, you will just be picking goat. No,
and everything will be okay there.
The only difference there is that even the problem they say they are going to, it's far better than the comfort somebody thinks is having in Nigeria.
Yes, a colleague of mine told me that the house rent there is about 800,000 naira per month.
It depends on your taste, on what you want. There are lesser ones than that. I also have a colleague there that is living just in something like maybe something like.
But this one said they are still sharing apartment. That the cost just covers the cost of gas and other things.
Yes.
Also the utilities.
But it's still far better for our condition here. Because you get job there.
That's exactly what.
It's only the tax issue. because they don't watch it things and they quit table. This money they are realizing from you, they distribute to other people.
That's the thought of Nigeria. That situation there is still better
it's still better because
than what is expressed in Nigeria.
Equitable distribution of wealth, their tax, the lesser one, the rural area, they will get benefit. You that are privileged in middle class, you get money, you get salary, but you also pay tax. They use that tax.
The person emphasizes that once you get a job, there won't be problem. Once you be able to avoid it.
Yes.
So how do we make the environment conducive for Nigerians here in this country to discourage all these abroad flights?
It is when we have a new leadership. Everything boils down on leadership, the political will. But you have a sense of leadership that also violate the law. That they don't want to pay tax, and they are expecting the Nigerians, the Iranians to pay tax.
Okay.
That's the manner of behaving like Pharisees that are imposing laws on the people. They themselves, they are violating that law.
All right. Because of our time, let's also see we have to Senate intervention and other stakeholders into the case involving Ikrimadu.
I think they are more or less behaving like the bull in the China shop. They are behaving like a bull in the China shop.
Would they appeal to bring changes to the law of the country?
The Slavery Act, the Modern Slavery Act, in which he was charged and convicted, I already specified the punishment. There are some punishment that the court does not have any discretion or prerogative. So you have to impose that maximum according to the law. So I think that Ikrimadu, they have done the necessity in Nigeria. They wouldn't have even say, let me go to this place, because what they even went there to do was having it illegal. And you ought to know, by virtue of your position, you are not an ordinary person.
All right, coming from The Guardian, I have this caption quickly because of our time. Nigeria to spend next 40 years repaying controversial 23.72 trillion naira CBN overdrafts to federal government. 40 years. That's part of the economic implications in the country.
There are some acts of the National Assembly that will not bind the incoming National Assembly. They can be reversed.
Okay.
That's why people are protesting that Emefiele, I think I learned yesterday that it should be removed. Protests have started now.
Yes,
he himself knows that before the swearing of the incoming president, maybe he will have left the country. Because I think we have a case to answer how he managed the economy, how he was able to obtain form as a sitting governor in the political party. Those are the issues that he has to answer to Nigeria. How was he able to finance?
All right. All right. Thank you so much. We have to leave at this present time. The protest is against the CBN boss regarding the cashless policy and all those economic.
Many people are sent to their early graves.
Policy. All right. Obviously, we have to draw curtains on today's edition of the program. Join my colleagues tomorrow at the same time for the next edition. Special thanks to my guest. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for your support.
Do have a blessed working day. The executive producer of the program is Akiola Owolabi.